Hello and welcome to this webinar on getting the most from Connect Interactive. My name's Sue and I am going to talk you through getting started in the basic tools of Connect Interactive. Now there's another webinar on more advanced use where we're looking at different tools within the system, and also on the Champions website page we've got a lot of short videos which give you the kind of quick guide to getting the most from the tools. So let me start on the Connect homepage. So if this is the first time you've been into Connect, let me just navigate you around here. Okay, so this is your Connect interactive analysis area. So this is where you're going to access all your data. We'll go in there in just a moment. You may not see this data management area because you might not have the right settings. So this is for those people who are responsible for submitting and for setting all the accounts up. Again, similarly, you might not see the reports and downloads, which again is for those people who have access to the reporting side of the system in your school or college. But you will see the resources here and the news. So keep an eye on the news because we change it for any important announcements. The resources area, you've got user guides, which has some Connect Interactive guides on paper if you'd rather go along with that. And then you've got the ALPS guide. Now that's got all the methodology, the benchmarking, all of that information in it. The knowledge base, heading into the knowledge base, allows you to ask a question of us, and if there's an article in the knowledge base, then it will pop up and it will give you some more information on that particular part of Connect data or Connect Interactive. And then finally, the ALPS Champions resources. So I'm going to click on that. And what we've got here is we've put lots of different resources in here. If you're the person who's driving ALPS in the school, then you're going to want to check out this area. It's got some PowerPoints on methodology that you might want to use to train staff, for example. And there's the Champions Handbook there, which is basically a starting point to how you embed ALPS across the school. There's some handy staff checklists that ask some questions of your data, and an ALPS cycle to help you get the most out of your year with us. Right, back to Connect. So there are 4 areas. I'm gonna focus on the subject area. That's where most of the sort of basics start. So if I go into the subject area, I've got an Key Stage 5 subject area set up here. So you can see 4 trends. Now these are called grade points in our language. In your language, they might be called data drops, data collection, grade points. And these are basically sets of data that your data manager has popped in that might be around predicted grade. You can see I've got a mock grade there, current working at grade. So basically that needs to be defined before teachers put grades into your system, and then it's uploaded to here. But what you can see then is you can see for each grade point in each subject, you can see number of entries, you can see the ALPS score, and then the ALPS grade. So for information about the score and the grade, do head over to that Champions website and pick up the methodology PowerPoint. Just a note on the grade points then. So you can select any 4 grade points, or 1, 2, 3, 4 grade points that you want to look at. I've selected 4 current year 13 monitoring grades, but this blue box here at the top, that's my grade point selector. If I click on it, then it brings me up a modal window, which now allows me to choose exam results if I want to. So if I were to click on 2018-19 there and OK that, I would then see a trend of 4 examination outcomes. Does that make sense? And then you can see my GCSEs have popped up there as well, because those are examination outcomes. Back into the selector. If I then go to monitoring grades, allows you to see all the monitoring grade points that your school or college has uploaded. But I'm going to head to the mix and match because it allows you to choose any 4. So all I do is, if I, for example, want to just see the grade points that have got year 13 in them, I'm going to check year 13 there, and then automatically it's going to just show me what I've got for year 13. So let's say I want MP2, MP1, there's a monitoring point 1, monitoring point 2, and MPZ, which was my first one when I started year 13. If I don't like that order, that seems a bit weird, that exam result being in there, I can click and drag and drop it somewhere and it'll swap them around. And if I don't want it there at all, I can just press minus, and then Z1, 2, Z standing for 0, by the way, and click OK, and there I go. So that's the subject overview. Jumping into a subject now, so let's go into biology, click on biology. That's my subject page. Those are teaching sets, those pie chart breakdowns. First table I see is a comparison gap analysis table with gender and disadvantage, and I can then see whether I've got any gaps. The second table is a teacher table, which you may or may not see depending on whether that data has been submitted. The teaching set table, again, depends on whether you've submitted it, but those are my teaching sets. Both are black, so the pie chart shows black. One's a grade 4, one's a grade 5. My thermometer here shows me what my overall score is, which is a grade 4 for biology for this monitoring point. Okay, so what can I do with some of this information? So the first thing that I can do is I can say, well, I'm not happy with the grade 4 and I'd like it to be a grade 3, being aspirational. So what I do is I hover over that 4 on the thermometer, click it and drag it and drop it on the 3, and it tells me that I'm going to need 6 students to improve by a grade. So 6 grades basically from my biologists across my subject area. So that's doable, I say to myself. So if I cancel that, what I now want to know is who are my students and who might I intervene with to get those 6 grades. So you'll notice across the top here you've got some tabs. If you click into students, then you will see a list of students doing biology. Teaching set there. Prior achievement, you can sort by prior achievement. I've just brought the highest prior achievers to the top. See the minimum expected grades. You may or may not have set them a personalised target, and then that's the predicted grade for this data drop. So remember that 6 grades. So what I'm now going to do is show you how I might model the impact of some of my interventions. Okay, now I'm looking particularly at this group of students here who are A grade MEG but actually not getting the A grade. So if I were to, for the next 6 lessons, focus my attention on A grade biology work, what impact could I have with them if we moved them all to an A? So top corner, top left hand corner, what if? Let me just check that box. And 2 things happened. The thermometer became double-sided and the what if grade showed up here, this new column. So what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to do some modelling. So if I just focus on my top few students and moving them to the A grade. Okay, now sometimes this might be a little bit unrealistic here, but let's just try it. So if I click the thumb and say A grade for that student there, A grade for that one, C to an A, I'm just being very inventive at the moment. I can also use the drop down and select, and let's just do the next couple. So I've targeted all of those students to get an A through my intervention. And look what's happened to the thermometer. It's come out as a grade 3. Okay, so that's how I might start to use this subject page to best effect to make sure I've got 1, the right students targeted, 2, what the impact of that might be, and then the rest is down to you. The rest is down to what are you going to do in your intervention to ensure that happens, and how are you going to evidence that. Okay, So that's the subject area. The second thing I can do across the whole of the subject area that I'd like to show you is I can put on comparison filters. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to reset that what if back to the overview tab, and I'm just going to show you how to apply a comparison. So this compare edit here, if I click edit, then I get some quick groups. So for example, high, middle and low prior attainment. If I click on that, then I get some tick boxes here. I'm just going to uncheck unknown, and I'm going to apply that, and what we should see is that on my thermometer then I get that gap analysis showing. So I can see that my high prior attainers, there's no low prior attainers in this example, are doing slightly or making slightly less progress than my middle prior attainers, which probably ties in with that A grade exercise we did a moment ago. So if I then go into the student tab, then that filter remains. So I can click down onto high, those are my high prior attainers. And if I go to mid, then those are my middle ability students in my group. I can do the drag and drop for how do I move to a grade 4 with my high prior attainers. Drag, drop on 3, 5. Okay, so I need 5 grades, which is pretty much what we did earlier on in the video. So whichever filter that you've got, let's just reset that. Whichever filters that you've got in Connect Interactive, you will be able to filter on there. Now these three at the bottom are not standard. The top ones are standard. These three are not standard. It's just a demonstration of you can add your own custom groups, but your data manager needs to do that at school or college level, and then they're available to you to filter by. Now, whilst we're in here, I just want to show you the ad hoc groups. And if I turn that on, then what I've now got the ability to do is to isolate some students from my class. So, for example, if you're concerned about one particular student who might have a persistent absence issue and is, particularly vulnerable, and you just want to see the effect that that student's having on your outcomes. So I'm just going to pick on student 105. If I click on the orange tab and just put them into a green group on their own, I can then start to see what effect that's had on my orange group without that person in, and on them as an individual student. I could continue to add to that green group if I wanted, or I could have some students in a slightly different group. If I was doing some intervention with them, for example, I could make myself a purple group, and you can see that I'm actually modelling the impact on those individual students or groups of students through doing that. Final area I want to show you in this video is the student analysis one. So if I want to know how my students are doing across their subjects, then I might want to come into here and look at, for example, my biologist this way. So I'm just going to click on that biology and drag it. See how it's dropping here onto focus, and I've just filtered out my 30 biologists. Now, colour coding here, red is on or above target, pink is the lower of a split grade, black's one below, two's below meg. So I just want to scroll down and see, are they doing much better? So this student here, I might be having a conversation with this student here about, you're doing better in your other two subjects than you're doing in biology. What's going on? How can I support you? In this case here, even though the student's one grade below, for me, they're 2 grades below in chemistry and maths. So I might want to be mindful of that before I pile on lots of work onto those students. So that just gives you a feel, just scrolling down, as to what's going on in your groups. Just to say that you can export this to Excel if you want to play about with it. You can export from the subject area as well. So let's just go back there for a moment. You can export your subject page from there by just clicking on Export to PDF and print your subject page with or without names. so that you can have it as a record in your file or for your line management meetings. So that was a whistle-stop tour round Connect, the subject area mainly. I hope that helped. We have got an additional webinar on more advanced use, which takes you into the monitoring accuracy area. And hopefully watching that will give you a little bit more insight into some of the additional tools in the system. Thanks very much for listening.